OpenAI has finally created a response to Google's Nano Banana Pro, and the results are pretty interesting. It's called GPT-Image 1.5, and in this video, I'll break down what's new about this model compared to old ones, run it through a ton of stress tests, and give my opinion so you can decide which tool you'll be using in this great AI tool battle. The reality is that this is the death of the one-shot generation era. You no longer need to regenerate an image a million times to get the result you want. We are moving into a world of persistent state, and it's about time. Let's break it down. They start with 3 individual source photos, 2 guys and a golden retriever. In the old workflow, version 1.0, trying to merge these 3 distinct subjects into a single, coherent scene while keeping their likeness intact was a nightmare. You'd get a guy who looked sort of like your subject, but the lighting would be off, or the dog would suddenly become a lab. Check this out. The model takes those 3 separate inputs and anchors them into a 2000s-style film camera shot at a kid's birthday party. Look at the anchoring here. It's actually insane. The facial geometry of the guy on the left and the guy on the right doesn't just inspire the output, it is the output. And look at the dog. The subsurface scattering on the fur, the way the lighting from the party candles reflects in its eyes. It's a level of consistency we haven't seen. Most gurus miss this, but the only thing that matters in a professional workflow is being able to tell a story across multiple frames without your characters morphing into strangers. The user drops a prompt that would have broken any other model 6 months ago. Add chaotic kids in the background throwing things and screaming. Now, watch the foreground. This is the mental model shift. In a standard diffusion process, adding a background element usually forces the model to re-render the entire image. But here, the subjects stay frozen. The guy's hand on his chin, the bored expression, the specific placement of the party hats, nothing moves. The model is treating the foreground as a persistent layer. This removes the massive bottleneck of having to take your AI generations into Photoshop just to composite a background. It's doing the heavy lifting for you in real time. Then, we hit the part that actually blew my mind. The user asks to change the guy on the left into a hand-drawn retro anime style, and the dog into a plushie style. But, and this is the key, keep the guy on the right and the background scenery exactly as they are. Look at the transition. It's surgical. The anime character perfectly occupies the same 3D space as the original person. The plushie dog keeps the same bored posture. This tells us something huge about the strategy OpenAI is playing. They aren't just building an image generator, they're building a spatial reasoning engine. The model understands that the guy on the left is a distinct object from the guy on the right. It's segmenting the world in its mind before it ever touches a pixel. For those of us in the trenches, this means we can finally start treating AI like a real creative partner. You can iterate on specific parts of a composition without nuking the stuff that already works. And check the consistency on the OpenAI sweaters part. They upload a source image of a gray hoodie with a logo and say, put them all in these. Look at how the fabric drapes. Look at the shadows in the folds of the sleeves. It's not just a flat texture overlay. The model understands how that specific garment would interact with the bodies of the subjects in that specific lighting environment. The reality is, the friction is gone. We used to spend 80% of our time fighting the tool, trying to trick it into remembering what the character looked like or begging it not to change the background. Now, you're a director. You're making high-level creative calls. You're saying, change this style, add this element, keep that likeness. I was trying to build a similar cinematic for a client last month, and I spent 4 hours in Comfy UI just trying to get the masking right. This footage shows that same workflow happening in seconds through a chat box. It's a complete shift in output efficiency. If you're still stuck in the mindset that AI is just for generating a cool sunset, you're missing the forest for the trees. This is about professional-grade asset manipulation. Look at the lighting on that final live stream shot at the 60-second mark. The dog is now an OpenAI live streamer, wearing a party hat. The background has shifted to a clean, modern studio with a laptop. But the dog? It's the same dog from the very first frame. The likeness is locked. That is the only thing that matters for brand longevity. Now this is where the practitioner side of this tool actually starts to outshine everything else in the stack. We're moving out of the birthday party and into a high-stakes comparison battle with this LA skateboarding sequence. Check this out. They start with a raw prompt for a late 90s documentary street photo. We're talking 35mm film, Leica M-style rangefinder, Kodak Portra 400 color palette. Honestly, the output is insane. Most models try to fake the 90s vibe with a cheap grain filter, but look at the edge softness and that specific muted tonal range. It's not just a filter, it's a full atmospheric recreation. But here is where the real storytelling happens. They start hitting it with precise, surgical edits that would usually kill your workflow. The clothing swap. They change the skater's shirt to red and his hat to yellow. Look at the light wrapping around the fabric. It's not just a color fill. The model recalculates how that red reflects off the pavement. The environment hack. They ask for a speed limit sign to say 15 and turn a random truck into a fire truck. This is the instruction-following leap I keep talking about. It handles the text rendering and the object transposition without touching the skater's posture or the background buildings. The layered chaos. They add a crowd of spectators on the left, an eagle on the right, and a blimp in the sky. Most people miss this, but adding 3 distinct entities at once used to be a hallucination trap. Here, every object is anchored exactly where it was asked to be. Then they go into the creative transformations that literally replace about 3 hours of manual mock-up work. They take that entire skateboarding scene and print it as a full wraparound on a t-shirt hanging on a clothesline. The texture of the cotton, the way the image warps with the fabric folds, it's production ready. And the final flex in this part? They dress the original skater in that same t-shirt. This is recursion mapping. The model is taking its own output, treating it as a new source asset, and reapplying it to the subject while maintaining the original character likeness. The reality is, the bypass here is incredible. You're no longer fighting the AI look. You're working with a system that understands 3D space, garment physics, and persistent character identity. If you're trying to build a brand, this removes the biggest bottleneck in your pipeline. We're leaving the playground and entering the production studio phase. This minute is dedicated to 3 massive pillars: creative transformations, instruction following, and high-res text rendering. First, let's talk about the codex sequence. They take a standard flat photo of 2 men, actually OpenAI leadership, and hit it with a golden age Hollywood movie poster transformation. In the old world, a style transfer like this was a coin flip. You'd get the vibe, but lose the identity. But look at the poster for the original codex. The model doesn't just slap a filter on, it changes their costumes to fit the era, adds stylized lighting, and, this is the friction killer, it renders the names Wojciech Zaremba and Greg Brockman perfectly in a classic serif font. It even adds the directed by Sam Altman and produced by Fijisimo credits at the bottom with 0 hallucinations. For anyone doing brand mock-ups or social campaigns, this removes hours of manual retouching. Then we hit the 6x6 grid demo, the absolute strategy flex of this update. Most models have a cognitive breakdown when you ask for more than 3 objects in a specific layout. But here, they ask for 36 distinct items: a Greek letter beta, a beach ball, a robot, a fish tank, all mapped to a precise coordinate system. Look at the side-by-side. The old model just gave up and made a collage of nonsense. The new GPT-Image 1.5 hits every single row and column with 100% accuracy. This is spatial reasoning at a production level. If you're a designer building asset sheets or UI icons, you finally have a tool that understands your mental model of a grid. And then, there's the text rendering benchmark. They render a full newspaper article based on raw markdown text about the GPT 5.2 launch. Honestly, the legibility is insane. We're talking about subheaders, bolded dates, and even a complex benchmark highlights table with rows and columns that are actually readable. Most gurus miss this, but the ability to handle dense, small point sizes means you can now use AI to generate full infographics, calorie breakdowns for food ads, or even technical diagrams with legitimate labels. Look at the how many calories are in there hamburger infographic. It's not just a picture of a burger. It's a functional piece of design with accurate data labels for every layer. Check out the additional quality improvements section right at the end of this minute. They show a 1970s London scene in Chelsea. The prompt asks for an Image Gen 1.5 advertisement on a passing bus. In version 1.0, the crowd would be a blurry mess of AI soup. Here, even the people in the far background have distinct, natural-looking faces. The reflections on the bus, the glare on the wet pavement, it's a high-res output that doesn't require a separate upscaler. The reality is that OpenAI just removed the hallucination bottleneck for structured work. You aren't just generating, you're architecting. Now, if you're running a business that relies on high-volume assets, this is the most important part of the entire footage. This isn't just about making pretty pictures in a chat bubble anymore. It's about the massive infrastructure shift happening behind the scenes. Check this out. They start listing the big players who are already moving their pipelines over to GPT-Image 1.5. We're talking Wix, Canva, Figma Weave, Envato, and even Shutterstock. Why? Because the API for 1.5 is now 20% cheaper than the previous version. If you're a practitioner, you know that a 20% reduction in input and output costs is the difference between a project being profitable or a total money pit. But honestly, the real human element of this update is the new images space in the ChatGPT sidebar. Look at how they navigate this in the video. It's a dedicated creation space that removes the friction of having to type out long, complex prompts every time. You've got preset filters, like film noir, pop art, or cyberpunk, and trending prompt ideas that you can just click and go. Most people miss this, but the strategy here is to lower the barrier for non-technical team members. They actually show the improvements and limitations section. They're honest about the fact that it still struggles with multiple faces in a single scene. You'll still get those weird AI oddballs in a crowd. They also admit that multilingual support, specifically for languages like Arabic or Hebrew, is still a bottleneck. And if you're using this for scientific diagrams, the scientific accuracy is still a bit hit or miss. It's better than the old model, but you still need to check the fact-checking on any data-heavy labels it renders. But check the comparison battle on the DeepSea poster. Version 1.0 would often crop the image prematurely or mess up the vertical ocean cutaway. The 1.5 model handles the entire vertical span with way more vivid graphics and a 70% increase in layout accuracy. It's just more steerable. The workflow here is clear. Use the sidebar for quick iterations. Use the likeness upload for consistency, and use the API to scale your production once you've dialed in your prompt. Look, we're hitting the reality check. It's where OpenAI stops showing you the perfect demos and starts showing you exactly where the tool hits its ceiling and where it's going to make you the most money in your stack. First, check out the World Capitals quiz sheet. This is a massive efficiency win. They asked for a world map worksheet for a 6th grade class with a list of the top 20 most populous countries and their capitals. Look at the new versus previous. The old model made a generic map that you couldn't actually use. The new one? It's a clean, high-res, printable layout with a numbered list that's actually accurate. Look, the strategy here is simple. Stop playing with AI and start building with it. If you want to know the best further steps, check out my community. Bye.